This is Gary and Nicole here with Keeping It Real, episode 2, where we're going to be talking about paleo and working out. A very interesting subject, don't you think, Nicole?
There's so much to talk about. Let's just get right into it.
I agree. And we were talking previously before we started recording this about, paleo, CrossFit, using kettlebells and other kind of exercise techniques that people are getting into and getting injured. And what's your perspective on that, far as your beliefs on how the paleo crowd and CrossFit, and because kettlebells, people lump it in with CrossFit, but actually kettlebells were around before CrossFit. They were well before.
Yeah.
So
I think CrossFit's great, personally. I've taken maybe 3 classes ever in my life. I am not much of a, heavy lifting type of person. I do kettlebells occasionally on my own. I've taken classes. But I do think CrossFit does a lot of things right. There's been some interesting pieces lately about where CrossFit's going as an organization and if its growth is at the risk of, people not being as safe as they should be. I do think that anytime you're getting into any exercise routine whatsoever, your current fitness level and your coach and your environment play a huge factor. I think that people get really excited about something like CrossFit because it creates such a sense of community and has such a strong identity at this point that they might go a little too crazy and do too much too fast.
yeah.
And I think that's probably where the injuries are coming from. And it's funny because I was actually talking to my chiropractor the other day, and she was saying that they've seen a huge increase in people injuring themselves with kettlebells and CrossFit. And I don't think that that's CrossFit's fault, honestly. I really don't. I think that people are getting really excited. Their numbers of attendees are going up. Coaches can't watch everyone all the time. And if someone doesn't know proper form or they've never worked out before, then, their chances of hurting themselves, no matter what type of exercise it is, go up exponentially.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that there's not, and again, this is not a CrossFit thing because I've only been to ever 3 classes. I just think in general with working out, there's not enough emphasis on before care and after care, proper stretching, what to do when, if you're sore, how to handle it, foam rolling. I don't think there's enough emphasis on how to foam roll properly and alleviate any muscle adhesions or things you might get from working out that could eventually lead to injury. So I think that, I think people just get excited, and it's great that they're really excited about fitness, trying to work out, but you go too hard, too fast, too soon, you're probably going to hurt yourself. And, there should be more of an emphasis on the management techniques, the stretching, the foam rolling, like I was saying. That's kind of my quick spiel.
And it's the statement of, walk before you run. And with all my clients, I always emphasize walking in the beginning, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. And I go, you just trust me on this one. Just walk 30 to 45 minutes a night, and you're going to see a pretty big difference. But we're trying to get your body in tune and get your muscles and joints prepared for working out. And I tell them I walk every night, and they're like, oh, you? Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah, of course I do. And with CrossFit, I have done quite a bit of CrossFit. I don't do it anymore now, and I don't think I'm going back, just because in my case I have, a major back injury that required a lot of surgery. There may be more surgeries in my future, and people go, oh God, Gary, you're supposed to be healthy. And I go, well, no, it's an injury. It's an injury I sustained in the military a long time ago, and it just manifested itself. But with the CrossFit lifts, I just found that I couldn't do most of them. Far as to anything to where I felt it was worth it. I tried some of the lifts, and I went through the whole gamut of everything in CrossFit. All of the routines. I think I went through all of them. And for me, I'm torn because I love CrossFit in the sense of community. I like the fact that they really push Paleo and Primal. It has such a good vibe to it. It's really kind of the friendships that are developed there, and it gets you motivated. Part of the problem, though, like you said, it's growing so fast that you get trainers, and in a weekend you can't learn to train someone. It just doesn't happen. I've been in exercise for decades, and being able to teach someone takes a lot of experience, and that's a good point. We didn't talk about this, but the rule of it takes 10,000 hours in something to become an expert, bare minimum. and I'm trying to think what book that is. It's a very well-known book and author.
I just call it the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know who wrote it.
I know, but no, we've heard it several times, and the author obviously didn't create it. Even Paul Chek talks about that a lot, and it's true. And when you have people who are new to fitness and new to training in general, a lot of trainers are new to CrossFit as well. And that's my problem with some of it, is that it's going so fast that you're getting a lot of inexperienced trainers out there too. And this is something that takes a long time to develop and understand how everyone's different, how to work with different individuals. And what they do is they just put everyone in a box. No pun there, because CrossFit is a box, called a box. But, you know, that's what I mean. They try and run everyone through the same routine. And they tried it with me as well at one point, and I had to basically stand back and go, hey, I can't put and do squats with weights over my head. My back does not allow my hips to open because I have fusion. There's no way my lower back's going to move enough and arch enough for my hips to rotate. Mm-hmm. And the look I got back was like, well, what? Well, no, just do it. And I'm all, no, you know, I'm not going to hurt myself again doing it. And actually ended up injured at the end of the last bout I did. And it was just, it was my back was part of it, but it was other things. So how do you get a lot of, have you gotten very many clients with injuries coming from?
No, honestly, most of my clients, I do coach a lot of women, and I know a lot of women who love CrossFit, love lifting. I do believe that women should lift weights. I think it's important for our bone density as we age.
For sure.
But in general, they're not the type of people that are CrossFit gung-ho. I think back to what you were saying, what's really important is for you to be your own advocate, and you really need to know yourself, your limits, your body, your fitness level. And if you're, you know, any gym, not just CrossFit, any gym that you go to, know your coaches and know your gym. I think you got to do your due diligence. Yep. And that's your responsibility, because it's just like medical advocation. You have to be your own advocate, and you have to know what's going to work for you and what's not.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't want to make it sound like I was picking on CrossFit.
No.
You're totally right.
We both agree that CrossFit's great. I think it's great. I love the sense of community. I love what they're trying to do. They've gotten more weights into people's hands than anything else over the last 20 years, which is phenomenal. I agree with all of that. I just think that people need to calm themselves down a little bit, take it down a notch. Yeah. And really kind of know what they're getting into when they start a routine like that, any routine. And I say this to my clients all the time. It's really important that you find a form of exercise that you enjoy to a point. You may not love it. There are people who just don't love to exercise. I get that. I've been there. I still kind of struggle with it. But you really have to find a form of activity that supports your goals and your likeness. Like, you have to do something that you're going to enjoy to a point. And if that just means that all you do is walk, great. Let's make sure you're not pronating, make sure you have supportive shoes, like whatever it is. So I don't get a ton of CrossFit clients. I do get a lot of yoga, booty bar, ballet, Pilates, piloxing type things. And, you know, as women, usually in general, it's a different set of objectives with working out than you'll see with a lot of male clients.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean, in general, again, there's exceptions to every rule. And I know a ton of women who lift heavy, CrossFit, whole 9 yards. They're amazing. In general, when you're talking to men, they are a lot more concerned with bulking, lifting heavy, being stronger, building up their shoulders. And with women, unfortunately, a lot of them are still really fixated on the number on the scale, and all they care about is fat loss. So they'll like aerobicize or something like that. Yeah. I do try to steer them to a place that's a little bit more weight training centered, if not like a couple times a week, or body weight at least use your body weight. But I myself, I'm a Pilates, cardio, high intensity interval with weights all mixed together all at once. Like, I need all of it all at once, high intensity. So yeah, just kind of, it runs the board, but I do try to get a lot of women to not be so intimidated by weights, intimidated by a CrossFit style workout, or intimidated by high intensity.
But Nicole, if I'm a woman and I lift weights, I'm going to look like the Hulk. I can't lift weights.
You mean like this?
Yeah, like you, just ripped, just guns blazing all the time.
All the time.
You know what the thing is?
Guns out, guns out.
I did a search on YouTube on Nicole and guns, and it was you walking down the street in various places just flexing. So
It's just, I'm still mourning my Niners loss last week. So it's how I bond with Kaepernick when we're geographically separated. It's just a little.
yeah. You can't help it. If you got the guns, you got to show them, right?
Yeah, and it's something I've struggled with. Like as you guys have seen on my website, I talk a lot about having always been built really athletically and feeling like I have very broad shoulders as a woman, and always wanting for a long time to just be small. Like I just wanted to wear cute clothes and have a slight frame, and it's like that's never going to happen. Like that's just not how I'm genetically built. So I tell people all the time, it's like there is a certain structure you're going to be somewhat stuck with. I mean, you can always change your body depending on how hard you want to work. But if you're the type of person that wants to do like a basic 3 to 4 day a week workout routine, you're going to have to kind of accept some things about yourself and push yourself in a way that's comfortable for you, that's going to yield results. I've never had anyone who started lifting weights and got bulky. It's just not possible for women. Our hormonal profile is different. If you do start bulking, you might have higher testosterone than the kind of standard deviation for women. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's just something your endocrinologist can answer.
Very rare.
Yeah, exactly. So from that perspective, it's usually they enjoy it. Like it's nice to wear a tank top and have toned shoulders. That's what I tell people all the time. There's been a lot of progress made for strength training with women over the past 5 years. And we have a lot of really great role models like Michelle Obama. No one would say that she's not feminine, but she's got very toned, amazing arms, and she's known for that. Actresses like Jessica Biel, who's, known as a paleo follower, who also does a lot of resistance and weight training, very sculpted, very muscular, toned body. Definitely not super tiny in a petite, diminutive way. She's got muscle on her, which is, I think, amazingly attractive. So we've come a long way with women in strength training, and it's great. I like to see that continue.
Who are these people? I've never heard of these people.
Michelle Obama, seriously? 50th birthday?
Whatever. I'm a guy. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
Yeah, you don't know about Coachella either, but that's a whole
you know me. I'm more of the dirty guy. I had to take a shower just to get on this thing. I'm more of a caveman kind of guy.
Gary, why am I blowing out my hair if you're not even showering?
Hey, you're lucky. I rushed too. I'd make sure so I didn't look totally grubby. But I don't know. Yeah, that's what makes it a good balance, is because it's a representation of different clients you're going to be exposed to if you want to get into this industry, and understanding them all, because I work out with men and women both. Yep. And it's different goals. It's understanding that, women have this kind of already built-in belief that they can't lift weights. And guys have a built-in belief that they have to lift weights. And it's this, weird dichotomy, and I have to switch guys off to, hey, we need to use some body weight, use some natural motion exercises, and you will build muscle and you'll look a lot better if we do it right. And then women, I got to get them to lift a little bit of weights to make sure they're getting some resistance training in. So yeah, it's a balance, but again, that comes with the years of experience of being in what I do, and being a former athlete. And I was an agent and I did all this investigation stuff in the food industry and all that, but I was always an athlete first, and I've always trained people. I started training people 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where today it's just not CrossFit in general. I think CrossFit is at the forefront, and I've read a lot of articles on injuries because of the fact that they're getting a lot of new people, a lot of new inexperienced trainers. Mm-hmm. And it's always been the exercise industry. Heck, you go to any gym and 90% of the trainers in there didn't know anything about exercise just 2 months ago until they got their certificate or whatever. And, there's a lot of trainers that have zero athletic background or nutritional background. And it's obvious in the beginning because they don't know what the heck they're talking about. That little certification does absolutely nothing for you. So it comes with experience and working with people and working with different types of people. But if they stick with it, mm-hmm. they eventually learn. And again, the 10,000 hour rule comes in, and, you can get into anything, any endeavor in health. And that's one of the things I tell people, not only working out, but in general, especially with the things I write about as far as nutrition and how to implement more of a primal ancestral health regime and into what you're doing is that make sure where you're getting your information from is from an expert. Make sure they know what the heck they're talking about. You wouldn't go to a financial advisor who just, never went to college. Well, I shouldn't say that. They don't need to go to college to learn that, but has no background in finances and has never had a checking account. You don't want to go to that person and they just got a certificate. Why would you do that with your health? And I think that is a huge problem right now is you've got a lot of inexperienced people trying to lead the charge and leaping beyond where their experience is. And that's where I think a lot of the CrossFit injuries are probably coming from. It's on both sides. It's the client and the trainer are very inexperienced. And you put those two together, not a good formula, for you're going to have actually a good formula for injury is what you're going to end up with.
Well, it's just like with anything else. It's like, of course you can seek out advice, but you have to make the best decision for you. And so you, like I said, going back to, you have to know yourself and take that responsibility on and do your own research, kind of figure things out. And unfortunately, because we haven't prioritized that sort of due diligence in terms of wellness, I'm actually really interested to see, kind of going back to, the men versus women thing. These are now the first few generations that we've had that have grown up playing sports, the same sports for both genders, at the same levels. So I'm actually really interested to see how that type of behavior evolves, where fitness isn't just some afterthought where you go to some gym and you sign up and you pay $20, whatever, a 24-hour, whatever it is, some chain gym, and you just do whatever and no one really knows what you're doing and you don't have any experience and you might hurt yourself. I think that there is going to be a lot more knowledge put behind, sports medicine, exercise, kinesiology, body mechanics. And that should all tie into ancestral health, clean eating, paleo eating, whatever you'd like to call it. Yeah. So I think that the next couple generations that are coming up, probably, early teenagers now, should hopefully have a much better handle on what's correct form and what they should do to exercise and what that means. And, I think we just are still dealing with a lot of people who never grew up being very active and never really had a routine as an adult, a fitness routine as an adult. So they're kind of new to things and they want to get in shape or they want to lose weight or whatever it is. And they're just kind of like jumping in because they're excited because they see all these amazing results from other people that are more experienced.
Well, yeah, and that's curious to see too. You're right. And for me, it's going to be interesting to see far as people, I think this generation coming up right now has been exposed to the least amount of exercise because now all of your PE programs have been cut out of a majority of schools for budgetary reasons. So, and the nutrition in far as grade schools and even high schools is deplorable. I mean, I know where they get the food because it's the same food they send to prisons and the military. I kind of know I kind of was in those, well, not in prison, but I used to go to prisons and I've been to quite a few and seen what they eat. And it's the same food. I've seen the boxes, actually. I remember the boxes in the military and what they would say on them, and I know what they say on the ones in the jails. It's the same box. And I think that for the most part, they have proven, I've seen some articles on it, that same food is in our school system. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as they grow up the need for this information. And are they going to have more education and understand it better, or is it going to be worse? We won't know.
Well, I think
for probably 20 years.
Yeah, well, I obviously agree that there's definitely like cuts in fitness education and nutrition education in schools. But I think that since the adults are more aware, it's more in the household. And I think that kids are playing more sports at an earlier age. Like, you have your AYSO soccer. So I think kids overall are more active on the whole, again, as a generalization, are generally more active, although it's not through the traditional school PE programs. I think it's more like sports, after school sports, kind of being more towards competitive athleticism. And then because, the age demographic of, 25 to 50-year-olds, the rise with Whole Foods, more Trader Joe's, more knowledge around nutrition, I think that people are starting to feed their kids better and kind of give them a little bit more emphasis on what proper nutrition is. So I think that there is greater awareness overall. I just don't think it's through the traditional structures of school.
Well, the information is more accessible than it has been. That is for sure, and that's by just watching how the paleo movement has grown, exponentially huge. This last year was a massive growth.
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
the
now
trend.
have you
Yeah.
seen the teenage bloggers?
Oh,
Some of the,
it's
there's some of
yeah.
the teenage bloggers who are making these amazing paleo, grain free. You know, and they care about their food, they know about their food, and they're making a blog about it. That's super amazing. It's kind of like when I met this girl at the Taste of Paleo Festival, which takes place this year. It's going to be September in Huntington Beach. But this past year, I met a girl there, and for her high school project, she was researching GMOs, their effect on our diet, what paleo was, and she did a whole 30 reset for her senior project. And I worked with her on it, and it was amazing. So I was like, wow, children are the future, y'all. They get it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I actually just wrote an article on GMOs for a magazine called Brink of Freedom, people. So it's a brand new online magazine.
Is that the NRA Quarterly?
No. It's by a former military man. He created this, and it's for people into self-sufficiency. So it's a great place to go. You got to pay for the subscription. It's brinkoffreedom.net, I believe, or just look up Brink of Freedom.
Just Google it.
Yeah, just Google it. You'll see me on there if you pay for the subscription. And but yeah, it's becoming more aware, and I was interested to see that there was a couple other articles in there already on GMOs as well. So the teenagers are definitely starting to grasp it a little better. It's just they're also bombarded with so many other things that, you know, as far as like me and you are doing, we're trying to get a clear message out there so people can understand. And that's what my writings are all about, is I try and keep everything simple, straightforward, and say, hey, you don't need to have a ton of information. Just get the basics, you know, don't go nuts on this stuff. You know, human evolution has been going on for millions of years. You know, so don't think that there's, you know, this complexity to working out and eating. We did it naturally on our own without any books, you know, apps and, you know, videos, and we figured it out. It wasn't that difficult, you know, as part of survival. So don't get too wrapped up into it far as the information and bouncing around. Find something that you find is reliable, primalpowermethod.com, plug, and that you can get your information from, and someone you trust, and someone you like. It's not only that, because you can find this information in many places. A lot of it's personality and the person that you want to get it from. You just have to like them and trust them. And, you know, just because someone's going to follow me doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow you, and vice versa. And it has nothing to do with our information, because we teach a lot of the same things.
It's a completely different vibe.
It's just two different things of what you like as a personality for someone teaching you. You know, if you think, you know, I'm a real jerk, well, then you don't just go to Nicole and then hang out with her. If you don't like her, you come over my way, or you go somewhere else. That's the thing. There are choices, but that's where you have to do your research, I think.
That makes it hard, though. I mean, honestly,
there's a lot of people.
Just to get back to the topic of actually working out, I mean, I was in love with my workout when I was in San Francisco, and it was called Burn. And it was amazing because we would do Pilates, intervals of cardio, and weights. All of it, all in once, 55 minutes, one and done. Best workout I've ever had, best shape I was ever in, hands down, amazing. Trying to find that down here in OC is so much harder than you would think, even though people work out here more and there's more studios and more variety. Finding that like little niche thing that I loved in San Francisco has been nearly impossible here. And it's crazy because I go to a place now that I do like very much, I found, called Body Evolution here in Laguna Hills, and it's the closest thing I found. We do a high intensity circuit, we weight lift, we do body weights, we plank, and then we get on the reformer and we do our leg work with our Pilates, arm work with Pilates, and do a lot of the core stuff. So I feel like I'm totally getting the cardio, the heart rate, the point of exhaustion where I almost want to like dry heave, and then the Pilates like lengthening and core building, which for me, that's like my ultimate recipe for fitness. And you just got to find your thing, you know, and it can be really, really hard, but once you find it, you'll want to go all the time. You're going to be pretty much addicted.
Well, and I even talk about that in my book, far as finding a gym and finding the place you want to be, because it's so important for working out that it's this huge mental aspect of it. I've gone to gyms that I absolutely hate, and because, you know, they were like you. I went to a new area. I was living in a new place, and I was trying gyms out, and you will go less frequently if you do not like the place you're going, period. If you love going, sometimes people have to pry you out of there before you end up passing out, because, you know, you'll work yourself out to death. You'll go twice a day, 3 times a day. And that's what you want. You want to go. Because
you want to go. And you want to set the habit after a few weeks of going.
Because let's face it, working out is not pleasure all the time. I mean, it just isn't. You know, you don't go in there and, you know, run around screaming and hollering how happy you are about working out. Some days, you know, you want to get in there and get it done. There's other days where you got to force yourself to go. But if you find a really good atmosphere and a place to go, you're going to go. No matter what, even on that crappy day, you're going to go. And that's the key as well. And I think that's what CrossFit offers in that sense.